I'm Laura Salvatierra. I'm the coordinator for perinatal education and support at Sentara Martha Jefferson Hospital. And we really wanted to get information to parents and moms in particular who are returning to the workforce after having a baby. We know that this information is difficult to absorb when you are in the prenatal period, when you're focused on having your baby. And so we wanted to create a recording that you could access in your postpartum recovery time period, or when you've got some time before returning to work, in a format that you can go back and watch as many times as you need to. Just a means for you to connect with resources, we just want to give you information that'll help you on this journey of figuring out how to be a working mom. So let me share my screen with you and we will do this together. Okay, so just to get going here, I know that our homes are probably not going to look like this nice, neat picture when it's time to go back to work, but lovely idea to get us started, right? So if you're able to view this session before baby is born, or even if you're just jumping into this, whatever, great idea to unpack that pump. If you're planning to pump, if you're planning to breastfeed and you're planning to pump, or if you're just planning to exclusively pump, great idea to pull that pump out, get it out of the box, read through the manual. There's probably videos that come with your pump online. If you're a visual learner and would prefer to watch videos about it, I'm sure YouTube has got the unpack your pump box videos. And so, take a look at it, get familiar with it, do the cleaning before you have to really use it. Another good idea is to go into work or think through at work with your manager or with your boss, or maybe you work for yourself and you're figuring this out for yourself, but find a good place to pump at work, a place that's private, where you feel safe and comfortable. That's not just a closet or a bathroom. You have a right to find a safe and healthy place for you to pump at work. Discuss this with your manager and feel empowered to discuss it with your coworkers. One great website for you to be mindful of, from the Department of Health and Human Services, that really gives you some good information about your rights as a working breastfeeding person, and gives you some great resources to just understand how workplaces can best support breastfeeding workers. So take a peek at that website when you get a chance. Another great resource for a lot of different reasons is kellymom.com. They are a wonderful place. And another great resource for pumping and going back to work. Lots of terrific articles in there. And Kelly Mom is one of the most highly recommended websites that all of our lactation consultants recommend. So take a look here as well. Some terrific resources there. I will say I'm not a lactation consultant, but I have been working in this field with breastfeeding women and mothers for a long time now. I started teaching in 2010. And so this comes near and dear to my heart. But I encourage you, if you have any questions about this slideshow, do not hesitate to reach out to our lactation team here. Their phone number is 434-654-8440. And our lactation team is happy to answer phone calls with questions that you might have. Or if they're not in the office, leave them a message. They will call you back and discuss with you over the phone, or make an appointment with you if you need to come in. As long as you are a breastfeeding person, you can make that appointment with them. They're happy to do it. So one of the big questions that women have is about how much milk to store, especially when you're preparing to go back to work. And these are some good tips to think through what that means. Each day you are making baby's next day meals. Okay. So if you plan to be working and away from your baby for 8 hours of the day, a work day plus travel time, there might be as many as 6 feedings that you're missing. And so trying to replace those feedings with pumping sessions while you're away at work. And so thinking through, we've got a link in here for a good calculator as well for how much breast milk baby will need in a day's time, or depending on what your time frame is. We'll look at that together in just a moment. But if baby's taking 3 ounces per feeding and is going to need 6 feeds stored for that first day back, then we're going to need to start pumping ahead of time to kind of build up a little bit, but not a ton. Um, Milk is changing with your baby's needs. And so if we start pumping right after you have the baby, the kind of milk that you pump then is going to be different from the kind of milk you'll pump a month from then, because your baby's needs are constantly shifting and your body is producing exactly what your baby is needing for the next feeding. Okay. So there's an exchange of information and bacteria that goes on. Your baby sends a message to your body responds to that message and creates what your baby needs. And so listen to your body as far as that goes. But if you're able to pump 3 times at work and you're able to get maybe 4 ounces per time that you pump, well, that's 12 ounces and nearly there. So just a means to kind of help you think through things. So how much milk will I need each day? Here's that milk calculator I was telling you about. That is on the kellymom.com website. And so you can peek through here and there's that calculator if you're exclusively breastfeeding. Okay. A lot of moms do experience a change in what you're able to produce when you start um, going back to work, because your pump is sometimes not as effective or as efficient as your baby might be. And so sometimes milk production does wane a little bit when we return to work. A great way to kind of help stimulate that, bringing a picture of your baby to work to think about while you're pumping, can help release that oxytocin and kind of help produce a little bit more milk. So you can think about that. There's some other tips as well. If your baby is less than 6 months old, a good average or good thing to consider is that your baby would need about 1 ounce an hour for a 2 to 4 ounce feeding. And so, thinking through that, just one way to think about it. You could give, lots of early morning and nighttime nursing snuggles to catch up for when you've been away during the day. And what you're pumping at milk is about 1/3 of what they're going to eat all day long. So that's another consideration. And pumping when you can at work and kind of setting that time aside if you're able to is going to be your best bet to help with that. Communicating with your care provider on when to feed. So if it's a grandparent that's with the baby, or a daycare worker, being very clear about what your expectations are for when you would like them to feed the baby is going to be really helpful. And having them communicate very clearly to you what the baby's taken. Communication is so key with whoever it is that's caring for your baby if you have to return to work. So just like if you were at home with your baby, they're going to be needing to eat every 3 hours about. So try to build that into your work day, that you'll need to pump every 3 hours while you're there. How long does a pumping session take? Consider these different things. as you're preparing, and you're going to get quicker and more efficient with this process the more you do it. So, washing hands, kind of getting yourself set up and in position, um, being able to sort of ground yourself so that you can efficiently and maximize your letdown, and maximize that pumping time. Um, and then wash your hands, label the milk, and then store it in whatever format that you've chosen to store your milk in. There's some good ideas about how to do that in here as well. Moms are so smart. We come up with solutions to fix the problems, right? So here's a little sample pumping schedule. Um, it says schedule pumping times. And if you control your schedule, block out a half an hour of a time slot for every 3 hours. Yes, that's optimal. If you have the flexibility to do that within your workday, that's great. So 6:30 a.m., wake up, feed your baby before you go to work. And then when you get to work and you've been there, 9:30, try pumping. 12:30, pump again. 3:30, pump again. 5:30 to 6:30, sometime when you're getting home from work, feed the baby again once you get home. And then whenever the baby is hungry. So you're kind of filling in for those gaps while you're away from the baby. Great ideas about things to put in that pump bag. Yes, you are going to be doing a little extra schlepping when you are heading into work. You've got to, have the baby, get the diaper bag for the baby, drop the baby off at daycare, and you've also got your pump bag. So in your pump bag, you'll have some ice packs, if you choose to do that, and some storage bags or bottles. There's even, I'll show you another picture here in a minute, but just like an insulated kind of thermos that you can store the milk in. And make sure you've got that hands-free bra so that you can pump hands-free. That's really helpful. Throwing in some Clorox wipes so that you can keep your surfaces clean, wherever it is that you're pumping. And you've probably at this point received information already about how to store human milk. This is a PDF of how to store breast milk, and the guidelines for how long you can keep breast milk out at room temperature versus the refrigerator versus the freezer. Feeding your baby takes a village, breastfeeding or not. But if you are choosing to breastfeed, here's some words of advice. Having a supportive partner is so critical to making breastfeeding work, and that doubles when you go back to work. That's for sure. When I got pregnant for the first time, I spent time talking to my partner about how important breastfeeding is. I think that made him quick to offer words of support and encouragement when I was struggling with low supply, cracked nipples, and fatigue. I now jokingly call my husband the Leche League. Yes, you need so much encouragement. This takes so much time and effort. Here's some good ideas for storing your milk. Leave it to a mom, right? Putting a cute little box in your freezer that you can keep things in order as far as when it is that you pumped it, and keeping the oldest milk kind of rotating to the front so that you don't forget about it or it doesn't get lost in the freezer. Cute solution with using little ball jars and lids like that. There's another box, just a simple soda box. Or this was a cute idea too, using a gift bag and cutting a hole at the bottom so that the oldest one comes from the bottom. You can pull that one out and just put the fresh ones right on top. Should I tell my coworkers when I need to pump? Maybe everyone will be cool with it if they understand where I'm going when I duck inside that empty conference room or wherever multiple times a day. Maybe they'll just leave me alone instead of knocking on the door or paging me. Is it worth talking to your coworkers? That is such a personal decision. I think it probably depends a lot on your work environment and who it is that you're working with. and how comfortable you feel with them. But if you feel at all like you think you can, and I just want to empower you to do that. I think our culture needs empowered women to educate those that are less aware of what a woman needs when she's a mom and she's chosen to return to work. That's how we're going to make change. So feel empowered to speak up for yourself and make the changes that need to be made in order to support your family. Here's some ideas too. There's that insulated pump cup. You can put the milk in there to keep it cool. Cute little lunchbox size refrigerators. Forgive me for this phone call. Maybe you all have already toyed with the idea of like a wireless pumping system that you could just attach to the breast. Women have varying degrees of success depending on the size of your breasts and how that works for you, but um, depends on you. Just give it a try if you're able, or talk to a friend that's tried it. Use our Facebook group to kind of feel out what people's experiences have been so that you can learn before making an investment in a pump. Let's set some realistic expectations. Um, Doing your best to minimize new challenges at work or at home. It seems like these days the challenges sort of multiply when it's time to have a baby. Sometimes we are pregnant and then we get a puppy and then we move and then we get a new car, or we move away from family. So many changes. And if you have any say over any of those changes, maybe hold off. See if you can pause while you're making big adjustments in other areas of your life. Great idea to find a peer support person, another mom who has gone before you, perhaps in your very work environment, that can be a bit of a mentor for you and support you along the way. Pretty much anyone that's been a parent will understand what it is that it means to go through this process of leaving your baby with a caregiver, even a family member, and returning to the workforce. There's a lot of good that comes of it. um, the ability to have adult conversations and use that part of your brain that maybe you didn't get to use while you were on maternity leave. But lots of changes, and it's so hard to be away from baby too. So you can hold both of those things, and having a peer support in the middle of that is essential. Think about anything that you don't have to do yourself at home, and how you might be able to outsource that or find creative solutions to getting those things done at home. So maybe that's the laundry or the dishes or the grocery shopping, or try to find avenues to let others help you along while you're figuring out your new rhythm of returning to work. So helpful. Something we talk about a lot in our support groups here is the 70-30 rule, where when you become a parent, and especially a mom, you can't expect to be 100% where you are. You are always maybe 70% where you are currently and 30% over here thinking about baby and home life. Or maybe while you're at home and you've got your baby and home life 70%, you're still thinking about that 30% that's left at work. So it's part of the process of kind of learning how to split energies a little bit in order to keep all the balls in the air. That takes practice. And you do get better at it over time, but hold that expectation loosely, because it is hard to be 100% on where you are all of the time. It's okay to let go a little bit. And this great quote from one of our educators here, Miss Anna Brooks: let your expectations live in the basement. It's a good thought. Just let's keep them down there, and then when things go right, we celebrate. So, what is parenting going to look like? My goodness, this is something we talk about all the time in our support groups. And as you're kind of preparing for all of this, my goodness, yeah, you're probably in the thick of understanding uh, all of the different tasks that have to get done in a household in order to keep it running. So, prioritizing what are the most important things? Well, everyone's got to eat, everyone's got to wear clean clothes, everyone's got to have some clean dishes or maybe paper plates to eat off of during this season. That's okay. So you can minimize all of that extra washing of dishes. What can you let go of? What are the things that you don't have to hold on to so tightly, that you can let somebody else take care of for you, so that you can pay closer attention to the time that you do have at home with your baby if you have to go back to work? Um, what do you need help with? Thinking about those areas, um, that you can let go of, that you can ask for help with. Um, and maybe it's involving additional people in your village. Maybe it's involving accessing a counselor or a therapist. Maybe you need some help processing all the change that's been going on in your life, and accessing that kind of support is really important too. Um, Thinking about how much time and effort it takes to feed a baby, whether you're feeding or pumping or breastfeeding, any of that. It's a full time job to feed a baby. So think about it as a 40-hour a week job that you are probably not getting paid for. So give yourself a ton of grace, as you're figuring out how to reshuffle and rebalance, this new world that you're now occupying all the time. While you're on maternity leave, just some tips about boundaries. If you can avoid checking in at work, just put a hard stop there. Let it be what it will be. You will return eventually, and you can figure it out from there. I know that it's hard to hear this cliche of sleep when the baby sleeps. It's really hard to do that. It's really hard. Um, but also, I want you to pay attention. So if you can't sleep when the baby's sleeping, is it because you've always had trouble napping during the day, or is it anxiety that's keeping you awake? Be mindful of what it is that's keeping you from being able to sleep when the baby sleeps. Is it that you're doing things that you could let other people take care of for you during this short period of time while you're making these huge adjustments? Um, but if you are able to rest when the baby is resting, it's going to be immensely helpful to you on this period in this period of maternity leave. Sleep is the number one medication I recommend at maintaining your emotional and mental stability through this period. So sleep when you can. And if you're having trouble, access some more help. Let somebody else in to help hold the baby or take care of some extra things around the house to give you that break and rest. So, yes, accept the help. Let the village in. And then, yeah, meeting other parents, connecting with others that are in a similar state. Maybe it's in the same stage that you're in that newborn phase, or maybe it's other parents that are just a couple clicks ahead of you stage wise that have already been there and can compassionately um, speak into where you are and give you some hope for the future, and maybe come alongside you. When babies' needs change, sometimes you do feel like you've got a little extra capacity to help someone that is still in the throes of that huge adjustment. So it really depends on the person, but connecting with other parents and growing your parenting village is so important. um, Even if it's parents that are much older than you, maybe even like retired or grandparent age, that maybe there's someone in your neighborhood that's a grandparent but doesn't have their grandchildren close to them. Maybe they could be sort of a surrogate grandparent for you, for your child, and could come alongside and maybe stay in the house for you and baby's napping so that you could get out and go for a walk by yourself, or stay in the house while the baby's asleep so you and your partner could get a date night. um, every person in our village, in our community, has a gift that they can share and support families that are raising kids. And equally, we as families with children can be caring for our retired community members, bringing them joy from a different stage of life. Some other tips about returning to work. If you are able to try doing part time first, that's a beautiful gift. Or working from home a little bit to kind of ease you into that, that's a good idea. Visiting work the week before you go back to work, trying to do like a dry run of like, okay, we're going to pack the diaper bag, we're going to pack the pumping bag, we're going to pretend as though I am going to work tomorrow. We're going to go at even the same time of the morning so that we can adjust for traffic. Let's just see how this goes. We're going to go through the motions of dropping off the baby at daycare. Then we're going to drive to work, and we're going to park and walk into the building and say hi to coworkers and find that breastfeeding space and talk to our manager, talk to our coworker about what expectations there might be around breastfeeding. And then, go back, and maybe if you're able to leave the baby for a couple of hours at the new daycare space and then go to work, maybe go to lunch by yourself, pat yourself on the back for doing a hard thing, going back to pick up the baby and returning home. Just try to do a dry run if you can. And lots of rest, as we just talked about. Sleep is number one, if possible at all, and asking for help if it's hard to come by. And all that prep work the night before, it's a lot of effort. But again, all that practice, the work of getting ready, is going to get smoother and quicker the more that you do it. Lots of moms have like just a checklist of, okay, I need to make sure every day before I go to work, I've got the pump parts clean and ready to go. I've got the baby's diaper bag packed and ready to go. Partners, this could be a great way for you to serve your breastfeeding mom as to your breastfeeding partner, to go through that checklist for her and make sure she's got all those things in the bag for her. That would be a lovely gesture. Building in breaks when you are going back to work. Get to work a half an hour early if you can, so that you have a little alone time to make that adjustment, that shift from parenting into work zone. Go for a walk, get outside on your lunch breaks if you're able to, get some sunshine. That vitamin D is so important to our mental health. Use your commute to rejuvenate. Yeah, as parents, eventually you get practice at becoming masters of the micro moment and really maximizing any alone time that you are afforded. It might only be 5 minutes, but man, you're going to take some deep breaths. You're going to do a mindful grounding practice during that time. Maybe use a little massager that you've got, put on some music. You're going to find ways to really maximize those little moments that you get to rejuvenate yourself, because sometimes that is all you get. So we gotta use that to the most. See if you're able to flex your work hours to give a few more hours a week for me time. My goodness, that is so important if you can at all. In support groups, we talk a lot about the 5 absolute necessary components of survival. They are sleep, eating, drinking or staying hydrated, moving, getting outside if you can. I'm careful not to say exercise because depending on where you are in your recovery, that might not be what you need. But moving and seeing something different is so important. And then alone time. You've got to find some space to be by yourself, reconnect with who you are, with the things that bring you joy, the things that you love that make you you, uniquely you. Really, really important during this period. So it's just as essential as eating and drinking and sleeping as finding that alone time and thinking about how to support your partner. If you've got a partner with you in this, finding ways to help them find alone time too. You got to do this as a team and look out for each other. Giving yourself permission to take those mental health days. If you don't, especially if you don't have that kind of flexible work time, then take a sick day and call it a mental health day and tend to yourself. Maybe you need to do that out of your house because if you stay at home, you're just going to clean your house or something else. If you're able to stay at home and truly rest and tend to yourself, power to you. But if you need to leave the house and do something else, or maybe meet a friend for lunch or do something that's just for you, it's really important to have given yourself permission to do just that. Okay, some additional resources. I already talked about kellymom.com. I do want to bring your attention to our website for Martha Jefferson. There's a postpartum tab to tap, and on that, we always upload a monthly calendar of free resources for postpartum support. And several of them are for both parents, moms and dads. And so feel free to check that out. We only post things on there that are free so that they are fully accessible to anyone. And if you're interested and you're not using social media at all, you're welcome to email me at lesalvat@sentara.com. And I can add you to our monthly email list, which has this calendar listed in there, as well as just an update to what groups we have going on that month here at the hospital. It has been a pleasure to talk through these things with you and consider us a resource to you. We want to make sure you feel like you are not alone on this journey, that you've got a hand to hold with others that have gone before you to help you figure this out. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much.